You can win. Winners don't do different things. They do different things. They do things differently. A step-by-step tool for top achievers. Shiv Khera Chapter 5 Interpersonal Skills. Building a pleasing personality. I will pay more for the ability to deal with people than for any other ability under the sun. John Rockefeller. We do not have business problems. We have people problems. When we solve our people problems, our business problems are substantially resolved. People knowledge is more important than product knowledge. Successful people build pleasing and magnetic personalities, which is what makes them charismatic. This helps in getting friendly cooperation from others. A pleasing personality is easy to recognize but hard to define. It is apparent in the way a person walks and talks, his tone of voice, the warmth in his behavior, and his definitive level of confidence. Some people never lose their attractiveness regardless of age because it flows both from the face and the heart. A pleasing personality is a combination of a person's attitude, behavior, and expressions. Wearing a pleasant expression is more important than anything else you wear. It takes a lot more than a shoeshine and a manicure to give a person polish. Charming manners used to disguise a poor character may work in the short run, but reveal themselves rather quickly. Relationships based on talent and personality alone, without character, make life miserable. Charisma without character is like good looks without goodness. The bottom line is, a lasting winning combination requires both character and charisma. Be courteous to all, but intimate with a few. Arid, let those few be well tried before you give them your confidence. True friendship is a plant of slow growth, and must undergo and withstand the shocks of adversity before it is entitled to the appellation. George Washington, January 15, 1783. Life is an echo. A little boy got angry with his mother and shouted at her, "I hate you, I hate you." Because of fear of reprimand, he ran out of the house. He went up to the valley and shouted, "I hate you, I hate you," and back came the echo, "I hate you, I hate you." This was the first time in his life he had heard an echo. He got scared, went to his mother for protection, and said there was a bad boy in the valley who shouted, "I hate you, I hate you." The mother understood and she asked her son to go back and shout, "I love you, I love you." The little boy went and shouted, "I love you, I love you," and back came the echo. That taught the little boy a lesson that our life is like an echo. We get back what we give. Benjamin Franklin said, "When you are good to others, you are best to yourself." Life is a boomerang. Whether it is our thoughts, actions, or behavior, sooner or later they return, and with great accuracy. Treat people with respect on your way up because you will be meeting them on your way down. The following story is taken from the best of Bits and Pieces. Many years ago, two boys were working their way through Stanford University. Their funds got desperately low, and the idea came to them to engage Ignacy Paderewski for a piano recital. They would use the funds to help pay their board and tuition. The great pianist's manager asked for a guarantee of $2,000. Economics Press. Fairfield, NJ. 1994, pp. 84–85. The guarantee was a lot of money in those days, but the boys agreed and proceeded to promote the concert. They worked hard, only to find that they had grossed only $1,600. After the concert, the two boys told the great artist the bad news. They gave him the entire $1,600, along with a promissory note for $400, explaining that they would earn the amount at the earliest possible moment and send the money to him. It looked like the end of their college careers. "No, boys," replied Paderewski, "that won't do." Then, tearing the note in two, he returned the money to them as well. "Now," he told them, "take out of this $1,600 all of your expenses and keep for each of you 10% of the balance for your work. Let me have the rest." The years rolled by. World War I came and went. Paderewski, now Premier of Poland, was striving to feed thousands of starving people in his native land. The only person in the world who could help him was Herbert Hoover, who was in charge of the U.S. Food and Relief Bureau. Hoover responded, and soon thousands of tons of food were sent to Poland. After the starving people were fed, Paderewski journeyed to Paris to thank Hoover for the relief sent him. "That's all right, Mr. Paderewski," was Hoover's reply. "Besides, you don't remember it, but you helped me once when I was a student at college, and I was in trouble." It is one of the most beautiful compensations of life that no man can sincerely try to help another without helping himself. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Goodness has a way of coming back. That is the nature of the beast. One doesn't have to do good with a desire to get back. It just happens automatically. We see things not the way they are but the way we are. There is a legend about a wise man who was sitting outside his village. A traveler came up and asked him, "What kind of people live in this village? Because I am looking to move from my present one." The wise man asked, "What kind of people live where you want to move from?" The man said, "They are mean, cruel, rude." The wise man replied, "The same kind of people live in this village too." After some time another traveler came by and asked the same question, and the wise man asked him, "What kind of people live where you want to move from?" And the traveler replied, "The people are very kind, courteous, polite and good." The wise man said, "You will find the same kind of people here too." What is the moral of the story? Generally we see the world not the way it is but the way we are. Most of the time, other people's behavior is a reaction to our own. Trust. I believe all relationships are trust relationships, such as employer-employee, parent-child, husband-wife, student, teacher, buyer, seller, customer, salesperson. How can we have trust without integrity? Crisis in trust really means crisis in truth. Trust results from being trustworthy. What are the factors that build trust? Reliability gives predictability and comes from commitment. Consistency builds confidence. Respect to self and others gives dignity and shows a caring attitude. Fairness appeals to justice and integrity. Openness shows two-way traffic. Congruence. Action and words harmonize. If a person says one thing and behaves differently, how can you trust that person? Competence comes when a person has the ability and the attitude to serve. Integrity. The key ingredient to trust. Acceptance. In spite of our effort to improve, we need to accept each other with our pluses and minuses. Character. A person may have all the competence, but if he lacks character he can't be trusted. Trust is a greater compliment than love. There are some people we love but we can't trust them. Relationships are like bank accounts. The more we deposit, the greater they become, therefore, the more we can draw from them. However, if you try to draw without depositing, it leads to disappointment. Many times we feel we are overdrawn, but in reality we may be under-deposited. Below are some of the consequences of poor relationships and the lack of trust. Stress, poor health, lack of communication, distrust, irritation, anger, close-mindedness, prejudice, no team spirit, breakdown of morale, lack of credibility and cooperative behavior, poor self-esteem, conflict, suspicion, frustration, loss of productivity, unhappiness, isolation. What are some factors that prevent building and maintaining positive relationships? Most of them are self-explanatory or elaborated on later in this chapter. Selfishness, lack of courtesy, inconsiderate behavior, not meeting commitments, rude behavior, lack of integrity and honesty, self-centeredness. Person all wrapped up in himself makes a pretty small package. Arrogance. An arrogant person is content with his opinion and knowledge. That will guarantee him perpetual ignorance. Conceit. Since nature abhors a vacuum, she fills empty heads with conceit. John bragged, "My son gets his intelligence from me." His wife replied, "I am sure he does, because I have still got mine." Negative attitude, closed mind, lack of listening, suspicious nature, lack of respect for values, low morals, lack of discipline, lack of compassion. Cruelty is a sign of weakness. Impatience, anger, temper gets a person in trouble and ego keeps him there. Manipulative behavior, escapist behavior, touchy nature, inconsistency, unwillingness to accept the truth, past bad experience, and uncaring attitude. Being ignored is not a good feeling. It shows a lack of concern. Greed is like seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. This probably is not an all-inclusive list. Most of us may have some of the characteristics mentioned above. Some may have more of one than the other. The objective is to evaluate and adjust course in those areas. The difference between ego and pride. The biggest hurdle in building a positive relationship is ego. Ego is self-intoxicating. Ego is negative pride resulting in arrogance. Healthy pride is a feeling of the pleasure of accomplishment with humility. Ego gives a swollen head while pride gives a swollen heart. A big head gives a big headache whereas a big heart gives humility. No matter what the size of a person's accomplishments are, there is never an excuse for having a big head. Pride, yes. Big head, no. Ego, the I know it all attitude to an egocentric person. The world begins, ends and revolves around him. An egotist can be funny by default. A boss asked one of his employees how badly he wanted a raise. The employee said, "Real badly. I have been praying to God for one." The boss replied, "You are not going to get it because you went over my head." An egotist talks and looks down on others. Egotism is the anesthetic that deadens the pain of stupidity. Knut Rockne. What is the difference between selfishness and self-interest? It is important to understand the distinction between these two words. Selfishness is negative and destructive. It destroys relationships because it is based on negative values. It believes in the win-lose principle. Self-interest is positive. It welcomes prosperity, peace of mind, good health and happiness. Self-interest believes in win-win. Envy, jealousy. Crab mentality. What is crab mentality? Do you know how they catch crabs? They put a box with one side open for the crabs to walk in. It has a base but no lid. When the box is full, they close the fourth side. The crabs could easily crawl out of the box and go free. But this doesn't happen, because the crab mentality doesn't let it happen. The moment one crab starts crawling up, the others pull it down and nobody gets out. Guess where they all end up? They all get cooked. The same thing is true with people who are jealous. They never get ahead in life and prevent others from succeeding. Jealousy is a sign of poor self-esteem. It is a universal trait. The biggest challenge comes when jealousy becomes a national character. Countries start degenerating, resulting in disastrous consequences for coming generations. Jealousy corrupts people. One should have an open mind rather than an empty mind. What is the difference between an open mind and an empty mind? An open mind is flexible, it evaluates and may accept or reject ideas and concepts based on merit. An empty mind is a dumping ground for good and bad. It accepts without evaluation. Steps to building a positive personality. Step 1. Accept responsibility. Responsibilities gravitate to the person who can shoulder them. Elbert Hubbard. When people accept additional responsibility, they are actually giving themselves a promotion. Responsible behavior is to accept accountability, and that represents maturity. Acceptance of responsibility is a reflection of our attitude and the environment we operate in. Most people are quick to take credit for what goes right, but very few would accept responsibility when things go wrong. A person who does not accept responsibility is not absolved from being responsible. Our objective is to cultivate responsible behavior. Responsible behavior should be inculcated right from childhood. It cannot be taught without a certain degree of obedience. Stop the blame game. Avoid phrases such as, "everyone else does it," or "no one does it," or "it is all your fault." People who don't accept responsibility shift the blame to their parents, teachers, genes, God, fate, luck or the stars. Johnny said, "Mama, Jimmy broke the window." Mama asked, "How did he do it?" Johnny replied, "I threw a stone at him and he ducked." People who use their privileges without accepting responsibility usually end up losing them. Responsibility involves thoughtful action. Pettiness causes us to ignore our responsibilities. Think about it. Petty minds are busy passing the buck rather than doing what needs to be done. Social responsibility. Ancient Indian wisdom teaches us that our first responsibility is to the community, second to our family and third to ourself. A society starts degenerating when this order is reversed. Social responsibility ought to be the moral obligation of every citizen. Responsibility and freedom go hand in hand. A sign of a good citizen is that he is willing to pull his own weight. The price of greatness is responsibility. Winston Churchill. Societies are not destroyed by the activities of rascals but by the inactivity of good people. What a paradox. If they can tolerate destruction by being inactive, how can they be good?
The question is, are they discharging their social responsibility? For evil to flourish, good people have to do nothing and evil shall flourish. Edmund Burke. Step 2. Consideration. One day, a 10-year-old boy went to an ice cream shop, sat at a table and asked the waitress, "How much is an ice cream cone?" She said, 75 cents. The boy started counting the coins he had in his hand. Then he asked how much a small cup of ice cream was. The waitress impatiently replied, 65 cents. The boy said, "I will have the small ice cream cup." He had his ice cream, paid the bill and left. When the waitress came to pick up the empty plate, she was touched. Underneath were 10 1-cent coins as tip. The little boy had consideration for the waitress before he ordered his ice cream. He showed sensitivity and caring. He thought of others before himself. If we all thought like the little boy, we would have a great place to live. Show consideration, courtesy, and politeness. Thoughtfulness shows a caring attitude. Step 3. Think. When a man died and St. Peter asked him if he would like to go to heaven or hell. The
man asked if he could see both before deciding. St. Peter took him to hell first, and the man saw a big hall with a long table, lots of food on it and music playing. He also saw rows of people with pale, sad faces. They looked starved and there was no laughter. And he observed one more thing. Their hands were tied to 4-foot forks and knives, and they were trying to get the food from the center of the table to put into their mouths. But they couldn't. Then, he went to see heaven. There he saw a big hall with a long table, with lots of food on the table and music playing. He noticed rows of people on both sides of the table with their hands tied to 4-foot forks and knives also. But he observed there was something different here. People were laughing and were well-fed and healthy-looking. He noticed that they were feeding one another across the table. The result was happiness, prosperity, enjoyment, and gratification because they were not thinking of themselves alone. They were thinking win-win. The same is true of our lives. When we serve our customers, our families, our employers and employees, we automatically win. Step 4. Choose your words carefully. A person who says what he likes usually ends up hearing what he doesn't like. Be tactful. Tact consists of choosing one's words carefully and knowing how far to go. It also means knowing what to say and what to leave unsaid. Talent without tact may not always be desirable. Words reflect attitude. Words can hurt feelings and destroy relationships. More people have been hurt by an improper choice of words than by any natural disaster. Choose what you say rather than say what you choose. That is the difference between wisdom and foolishness. Excessive talking does not mean communication. Talk less. Say more. A fool speaks without thinking. A wise man thinks before speaking. Words spoken out of bitterness can cause irreparable damage. The way parents speak to their children in many instances shapes their children's destiny. Spoken words can't be retrieved. A farmer slandered his neighbor. Realizing his mistake, he went to the preacher to ask for forgiveness. The preacher told him to take a bag of feathers and drop them in the center of town. The farmer did as he was told. Then the preacher asked him to go and collect the feathers and put them back in the bag. The farmer tried but couldn't, as the feathers had all blown away. When he returned with the empty bag, the preacher said, "The same thing is true about your words. You drop them rather easily but you cannot retrieve them, so be very careful in choosing your words." Step 5. Don't criticize and complain. When I talk of criticism, I refer to negative criticism. Why should we not criticize? When a person is criticized, he becomes defensive. Does that mean we should never criticize, or can we give positive criticism? A critic is like a backseat driver who drives the driver mad. Positive criticism. What is constructive criticism? Criticize with a
spirit of helpfulness rather than as a put down. Offer solutions in your criticism. Criticize the behavior, not the person, because when we criticize the person, we hurt their self-esteem. The right to criticize comes with the desire to help. As long as the act of criticizing does not give pleasure to the giver, it is okay. When giving criticism becomes a pleasure, it is time to stop. Some suggestions for giving criticism that motivates others. Be a coach. Criticize with a helpful attitude. A coach criticizes to help improve performance of the athlete. Understanding and concern will act as a motivator. The attitude should be corrective rather than punitive. Be specific, rather than saying things like, "you always," or "you never." Vague criticism causes resentment. Get your facts right. Don't jump to conclusions. We all have the right to our opinions, but we don't have the right to incorrect facts. Don't rush to criticize. Maintain your cool but be firm. Criticize to persuade, not intimidate. If criticism is given appropriately, it will reduce the need for repetition. Criticize in private, not in public. Why? Because it maintains goodwill, whereas public criticism can be humiliating. Give the other person an opportunity to explain his side. Show them how they would benefit from correcting their mistake. Criticize the performance, not the performer. Don't express personal resentment. Simply point out the loss arising from the action and the adverse consequences of not correcting it. Ask for suggestions for improvement. Question the action, not the intent. If intent is in question, then it is better to terminate the relationship. Keep criticism in perspective. Don't overdo it. Criticism is like giving medication. The medication should be the right mixture with a perfect dosage. Too much will have adverse effects and too little will be ineffective. Similarly, criticism should be kept in perspective. Given in a positive way in the right dosage, it can work wonders. If people who are being criticized accept their mistake and come up with positive suggestions, congratulate them. Close on a positive note with appreciation. Receiving criticism. There may be times when we are criticized, justly or unjustly. The greatest people in the world have been criticized. Justified criticism can be very helpful and should be taken positively as feedback. Unjustified criticism really is a compliment in disguise. Average people hate winners. When people are not successful, critics have nothing to talk about. The only way you will never be criticized is if you do nothing, say nothing, or have nothing. You will end up being a big nothing. Unjust criticism comes from two sources. 1. Ignorance. When criticism comes out of ignorance, it can easily be eliminated or corrected by bringing awareness. 2. Jealousy. When criticism comes out of jealousy, take it as a compliment in disguise. You are being unjustly criticized because
the other person wants to be where you are. The tree that bears the most fruits also gets the most stones. An inability to accept constructive criticism is a sign of poor self-esteem. Suggestions for accepting criticism. Take it in the right spirit. Accept it graciously rather than grudgingly. Learn from it. Accept it with an open mind. Evaluate it, and if it makes sense, implement it. Be thankful to the person who gives constructive criticism because he means well and has helped you. A person with high self-esteem accepts positive criticism and becomes better, not bitter. The problem with most people is they would rather be praised and lose than be criticized and win. Complaints. Some people are chronic complainers. If it is hot, it is too hot. If it is cold, it is too cold. Every day is a bad day. They complain even if everything goes right. Why is it not a good idea to complain? Because 50% of the people don't care if you have got a problem and the other 50% are happy that you have got a problem. What is the point of complaining? Nothing comes out of it. It becomes a personality trait. Does that mean we should never complain or invite complaints? Not at all. Just like criticism, if it is done in a positive way, complaints can be very useful. A constructive complaint. A. Shows that the complainer cares. B. Gives the receiver of complaints a second chance to correct himself. Step 6. Smile and be kind. Smile *. A smile costs nothing, but it creates much. It enriches those who receive it without impoverishing those who give it. It happens in a flash, and the memory of it may last forever. None are so rich that they can get along without it, and none so poor that they cannot be richer for its benefits. It creates happiness in the home, fosters goodwill in a business, and is the countersign of friends. It is rest to the weary, daylight to the discouraged, sunshine to the sad, and nature's best antidote for trouble. Yet it cannot be begged, bought, borrowed, or stolen, for it is something that is worth nothing to anyone until it is given away. In the course of the day, Some of your acquaintances may be too tired to give you a smile. Give them one of yours. Nobody needs a smile so much as those who have none to give. Cheerfulness flows from goodness. A smile can be fake or genuine. The key is to have a genuine one. It takes more muscles to frown than to smile. It is easier to smile than frown. It improves face value. A simile is contagious and is an inexpensive way to improve looks. A smiling face is always welcome. Who likes to be around a grouch? No one, except maybe a bigger grouch. A warm, sincere smile shows through just like an insincere one. Step 7. Put positive interpretation on other people's behavior in the absence of sufficient facts. People instinctively put a negative interpretation on others' actions or inactions. Some people suffer from paranoia. They think the world is out to get them. That is not true. By starting on a positive note, we have a better chance of building a pleasing personality resulting in good relationships. For example, how often have we put through a call and not gotten a reply from the other party for 2 days, and the first thought that comes to our mind is, they never cared to return my call, or, they ignored me. That is negative. Maybe they tried, but couldn't get through. They left the message we didn't get. They had an emergency. They never got the message. There could be many reasons. It is worth giving the benefit of doubt to the other person and starting on a positive note. Step 8. Be a good listener. Ask yourself these questions. How does it make you feel when you wanted somebody to listen to you and they did more talking than listening? They disagreed with the first thing you said. They interrupted you at every step. They were impatient and completed every sentence you started. They were physically present but mentally absent. They heard but didn't listen. You had to repeat the same thing 3 times because the other person wasn't listening. They came to conclusions unrelated to facts. They asked questions on unrelated topics. They were fidgety and distracted. They were obviously not listening or paying attention. All these things show disinterest in the person or the topic and a total lack of courtesy. Do the following words describe the feeling of not being listened to? Neglected, belittled, rejected, annoyed, dejected, stupid, let down, worthless, unimportant, embarrassed, small, demotivated, ignored, disheartened. Let's reverse the scenario. How does it make you feel when you want someone to listen to you and they make you comfortable? Give you their undivided attention. Ask appropriate and relevant questions. Show interest in your subject. Do the following words describe the feeling of being listened to? Important, good, pleased, happy, satisfied, appreciated, worthwhile, encouraged, cared for, inspired. What are some of the barriers to effective listening? External barriers, internal barriers, physical distractions, preoccupation or absent-mindedness, noise, prejudice and prejudging people, fatigue, no interest in subject or speaker. There could be intellectual barriers, such as language, comprehension, etc. In order to inspire others to speak, be a good listener. Listening shows caring. When you show a caring attitude toward another person, that person feels important. When he feels important, what happens? He is more motivated and more receptive to your ideas. An open ear is the only believable sign of an open heart. David Augsburger. In order to be a good listener, encourage the speaker to talk. Ask questions. It shows interest. Don't interrupt. Don't change the topic. Show understanding and respect. Pay attention, concentrate. Avoid distractions. Show empathy. Be open-minded. Don't let preconceived ideas and prejudices prevent you from listening. Concentrate on the message and not on the delivery. Recognize the nonverbal communication, such as facial expressions, eye contact, etc. They might be communicating a different message from the verbal. Listen to feelings and not just words. Step 9. Be enthusiastic. Nothing great is ever achieved without enthusiasm. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Enthusiasm and success go hand in hand, but enthusiasm comes first. Enthusiasm inspires confidence, raises morale, builds loyalty, and is priceless. Enthusiasm is contagious. You can feel enthusiasm by the way a person talks, walks or shakes hands. Enthusiasm is a habit that one can acquire and practice. Many decades ago, Charles Schwab, who was earning a salary of $1 million a year, was asked if he was being paid such a high salary because of his exceptional ability to produce steel. Charles Schwab replied, "First consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm among the men, the greatest asset I possess, and the way to develop the best that is in a man is by appreciation and encouragement. Live while you are alive. Don't die before you are dead. Enthusiasm and desire are what change mediocrity to excellence. Water turns into steam with a difference of only 1 degree in temperature, and steam can move some of the biggest engines in the world. That is what enthusiasm helps us to do in our lives." Step 10. Give honest and sincere appreciation. The psychologist William James said, "One of the deepest desires of human beings is the desire to be appreciated. The feeling of being unwanted is hurtful. Expensive jewels are not real gifts. They are apologies for shortcomings. Many times we buy gifts for people to compensate for not spending enough time with them. Real gifts are when you give a part of yourself. Sincere appreciation is one of the greatest gifts one can give to another person. It makes a person feel important. The desire to feel important is one of the greatest cravings in most human beings. It can be a great motivator. The biggest disease today is not leprosy or tuberculosis, but rather the feeling of being unwanted." Mother Teresa appreciation, in order to be effective, must meet certain criteria. 1. It must be specific. If I tell someone that he did a good job, and walk away, what will go through his mind? He will think, "What did I do good?" He will be confused. But when I say, "The way you handled that difficult customer was great," then he knows what he is being appreciated for. 2. It must be immediate. The effectiveness is diluted if we show our appreciation for someone 6 months after he has done something commendable. 3. It must be sincere. It must come from the heart. You must mean every word. What is the difference between appreciation and flattery? The difference is sincerity. One comes from the heart, the other from the mouth. One has an ulterior motive and the other is sincere. Some people find it easier to flatter than to give sincere praise. Don't flatter or get taken in by flatterers. It's an old maxim in the schools that flattery's the food of fools, yet now and then you men of wit will condescend to take a bit. Jonathan Swift. 4. Don't qualify praise with a but. By using the but as a connector, we erase the appreciation. Use and, in addition to that, or some other appropriate connector. Say something like, "I appreciate your effort and would you please," rather than, "I appreciate your effort but." 5. After giving appreciation, it is not important to wait for a receipt or acknowledgement. Some people are looking for a compliment in return. That is not the purpose of appreciation. If you are receiving appreciation, accept it graciously with a "thank you." It is easier to deal with honest rejection than insincere appreciation. At least the person knows where he stands. Insincere appreciation is like a mirage in the desert. The closer you get, the more disappointed you become because it is nothing more than an illusion. People put up a front of sincerity as a cover. Step 11. When we make a mistake, we should accept it immediately and willingly. When I am wrong, make me easy to change. And when I am right, make me easy to live with. This is a good philosophy to live by. Page 114 of 175. Some people live and learn while others live and never learn. Mistakes are to be learned from. The greatest mistake a person can make is to repeat it. Don't assign blame and make excuses. Don't dwell on it. When you realize your mistake, it is a good idea to accept it and apologize. Don't defend it. Why? Acceptance disarms the other person. Step 12. When the other person realizes and admits that he has made a mistake, congratulate him and give him a way out to save face. If we don't let him save face, we are hurting his self-esteem. Step 13. Discuss but don't argue. There are some personalities that can be labeled as argumentative, and that shows in their behavior and relationships. Arguments can be avoided and a lot of heartache prevented by being a little careful. The best way to win an argument is to avoid it. An argument is one thing you will never win. If you win, you lose. If you lose, you lose. If you win an argument but lose a good job, customer, friend or marriage, what kind of victory is it? Pretty empty. Arguments result from inflated ego. Arguing is like fighting a losing battle. Even if one wins, the cost may be more than the victory is worth. Emotional battles leave a residual ill will even if you win. In an argument, both people are trying to have the last word. Argument is nothing more than a battle of egos and results in a yelling contest. A bigger fool than the one who knows it all is the one who argues with him. Is it worth it? The more arguments you win, the fewer friends you have. Even if you are right, is it worth arguing? The answer is pretty obvious. A big no. Does that mean one should never bring up a point? One should, but gently and tactfully by saying something neutral such as, based on my information. If the other person is argumentative, even if you can prove him wrong, is it worth it? I don't think so. Do you make your point a second time? I wouldn't. Why? Because the argument is coming from a closed mind trying to prove who is right rather than what is right. For example, at a social get-together, especially after a few drinks, someone may say authoritatively, the current year's export figures are $50 billion. You happen to know that his information is incorrect and the right figure is $45 billion. You read it in the paper that morning or you heard it on the radio on the way to the get-together and you have a bulletin in your car to substantiate it. Do you make your point? Yes, by saying, my information is that the export figure is $45 billion. The other person reacts, you don't know what you are talking about. I know exactly what it is and it is $50 billion. At this point, you have several choices. 1. Make your point again and start an argument. 2. Run and bring the bulletin from your car and make sure you prove him wrong. 3. Avoid it. 4. Discuss but don't argue. The right choice is number 3 only. Page 115 of 175. If one wants to accomplish great things in life, one has to practice maturity. Maturity means not getting entangled in unimportant things and petty arguments. What is the difference between an argument and a discussion? Page 116 of 175. An argument throws heat. A discussion throws light. One stems from ego and a closed mind whereas the other comes from an open mind. An argument is an exchange of ignorance whereas a discussion is an exchange of knowledge. An argument is an expression of temper whereas a discussion is an expression of logic. An argument tries to prove who is right whereas a discussion tries to prove what is right. It is not worthwhile to reason with a prejudiced mind. It wasn't reasoned into him so you can't reason it out. A narrow mind and a big mouth usually lead to interesting but pointless arguments. In order to discuss, let the other person state his side of the case without interruption. Let him blow steam. Don't try to prove him wrong on every point. Never let him drag you to his level. Treat him with courtesy and respect. That will confuse him. Regardless of the cause, the best way to diffuse the situation is to 1. Give a patient hearing. 2. Not fight back or retaliate that will confuse the other person because he was expecting a fight. 3. Not expect an apology. For some people, apologizing is difficult even if they have made a mistake. 4. Not make issues out of petty matters. Discussion entails not only saying the right thing at the right time but also leaving unsaid what need not be said. Children should be taught the art of speaking up but not talking back. As adults we should learn the art of disagreeing without being disagreeable. The way a person handles an argument reflects their upbringing. I learned a long time ago never to wrestle with a pig. You get dirty and besides, the pig likes it. Cyrus Ching steps to opening a discussion. 1. Be open-minded. 2. Don't be dragged into an argument. 3. Don't interrupt. 4. Listen to the other person's point of view before giving your own. 4. Ask questions to clarify. That will also set the other person thinking. 5. Don't exaggerate. 7. Be enthusiastic in convincing, not forceful. 8. Be willing to yield. 9. Be flexible on petty things but not on principles. 10. Don't make it a prestige issue. Page 117 of 175. 11. Give your opponent a graceful way to withdraw without hurting his pride. Rejection can be hurtful. 12. Use soft words but hard arguments rather than hard words and soft arguments. It is impossible to defeat an ignorant man in an argument. His strong and bitter words only indicate a weak cause. During a discussion, it may be a good idea to use phrases such as, "It appears to me," "I may be wrong." Another way to diffuse arguments is by showing ignorance and asking questions such as, "Why do you feel that way? Can you explain a little? Can you be more specific?" If nothing works, it may be worthwhile to politely, gently, and with courtesy, agree to disagree. Step 14. Don't gossip. Remember, people who gossip with you also gossip about you in your absence. Gossiping and lying are closely related. A gossip listens in haste and repeats at leisure. A gossip never minds his own business because he neither has a mind nor a business. A gossip is more concerned about what he overhears than what he hears. Gossip is the art of saying nothing in a way that leaves nothing unsaid. Someone said it well. Small people talk about other people. Mediocre people talk about things. Great people talk about ideas. Gossip can lead to slander and defamation of character. People who listen to gossip are as guilty as those who do the gossiping. A gossip usually gets caught in his own mouthtrap. Gossip has no respect for justice. It breaks hearts. It ruins lives. It is cunning and malicious. It victimizes the helpless. Gossip is hard to track down because it has no face or name. It tarnishes reputations, topples governments, wrecks marriages, ruins careers, makes the innocent cry, causes heartaches and sleepless nights. The next time you indulge in gossip, ask yourself, is it the truth? Is it kind and gentle? Is it necessary? Am I spreading rumors? Do I say positive things about others? Do I enjoy and encourage others to spread rumors? Does my conversation begin with, "Don't tell anyone"? Can I maintain confidentiality? Page 118 of 175. Refrain from indulging in gossip. Remember, small talk comes out of big mouths. Step 15. Turn your promises into commitments. What is the difference between a promise and a commitment? A promise is a statement of intent. A commitment is a promise that is going to be kept no matter what. In the no matter what, I exclude illegal and immoral things. Commitment comes out of character and leads to conviction. Can you imagine what kind of a world it would be if no one made a commitment to one another? What would happen to relationships between spouses, employers and employees, parents and children, students and teachers, buyers and sellers? Uncommitted relationships are pretty shallow and hollow. They are a matter of convenience and are temporary. Nothing lasting has ever been created without commitment. Commitment says, I am predictable in the unpredictable future. Many people confuse commitment with confinement. That really is not true. Commitment does not take away freedom. It actually gives more freedom because it gives a sense of security. The most important commitment we ever make is to our values. That is why it is imperative to have the right value system. For example, if I committed myself to support a leader who later becomes a drug dealer, do I continue my commitment? Not at all. Commitment leads to enduring relationships through thick and thin. It shows in a person's personality and relationships. Step 16. Be grateful but do not expect gratitude. Gratitude is a beautiful word. We must be thankful. Gratitude is a feeling. It improves our personality and builds character. Gratitude develops out of humility. It is a feeling of thankfulness toward others. It is conveyed through our attitude towards others and reflects in our behavior. Gratitude does not mean reciprocating good deeds because gratitude is not give and take. A good deed cannot be cancelled by a counteract. Things such as kindness, understanding, and patience cannot be repaid. What does gratitude teach us? It really teaches us the art of cooperation and understanding. Gratitude must be sincere. A simple thank you can be gracious. Many times we forget to be thankful to the people closest to us, such as our spouse, our relatives, our friends. Gratitude would rank among the top qualities that form the character and personality of an individual with integrity. Ego stands in the way of showing gratitude. A gracious attitude changes our outlook in life. With gratitude and humility, right actions come naturally. Gratitude ought to be a way of life, something which we cannot give enough of. It can mean a smile, or a thank you, or a gesture of appreciation. Page 119 of 175. Think of your most precious possessions. What makes them special? In most cases, the gift is less significant than the giver. Seldom are we grateful for the things we already possess. Think back and try to recall the people who had a positive influence on your life. Your parents, teachers, anyone who spent extra time to help you. Perhaps it appears that they just did their job. Not really. They willingly sacrificed their time, effort, money and many other things for you. They did it out of love and not for your thankfulness. At some point, a person realizes the effort that went in to help them shape their future. Perhaps it is not too late to thank them. And it is time to reciprocate. Love requires sacrifice. The story of Christ as the story goes. Once Christ healed 10 lepers, and when he turned back they were all gone except one who had the courtesy to thank Christ. Christ said, "I didn't do a thing." What is the moral of the story? 1. Human beings are ungrateful. 2. A grateful person is the exceptional person. 3. Christ literally gave them a new life and said, "I didn't do a thing." 4. Like Christ, we should not expect gratitude. How does this translate in our behavior and personality? We feed or give shelter to someone for a few days and say, "Look what I did for the other person." We blow our giving out of proportion in our own mind. It is not uncommon to hear people saying, "If it wasn't for me, this person would be on the street." What an ego. By the way, when people ask others to do something for them by using the phrase, "By the way, can you do this for me?" they undermine the importance of doing or not doing. I have found that if we have to do anything for anyone, it is never "by the way," it is always "out of the way." This does not amount to doing favors from the doer's perspective. If one doesn't do things that can be done to help another person, then it is sad. But I am convinced that there is no such thing as "by the way." It is always "out of the way," and it is worth it. Step 17. Be dependable and practice loyalty. The old adage, "An ounce of loyalty is worth more than a pound of cleverness," is universal and eternal. Ability is important, but dependability is crucial. If you have someone with all the ability but if he is not dependable, do you want him as part of your team? No, not at all. I knew you would come. Page 120 of 175. There were 2 childhood buddies who went through school and college and even joined the army together. War broke out and they were fighting in the same unit. One night they were ambushed. Bullets were flying all over and out of the darkness came a voice, "Harry, please come and help me." Harry immediately recognized the voice of his childhood buddy, Bill. He asked the captain if he could go. The captain said, "No, I can't let you go. I am already short-handed and I cannot afford to lose one more person. Besides, the way Bill sounds, he is not going to make it." Harry kept quiet. Again the voice came, "Harry, please come and help me." Harry sat quietly because the captain had refused earlier. Again and again the voice came. Harry couldn't contain himself any longer and told the captain, "Captain, this is my childhood buddy. I have to go and help." The captain reluctantly let him go. Harry crawled through the darkness and dragged Bill back into the trench. They found that Bill was dead. Now the captain got angry and shouted at Harry, "Didn't I tell you he was not going to make it? He is dead. You could have been killed and I could have lost a hand." "That was a mistake," Harry replied. "Captain, I did the right thing. When I reached Bill he was still alive and his last words were, 'Harry, I knew you would come.'" Good relationships are hard to find and once developed should be nurtured. We are often told, "Live your dream." But you cannot live your dream at the expense of others. People who do so are unscrupulous. We need to make personal sacrifices for our family, friends, and those we care about and who depend on us. Step 18. Avoid bearing grudges. Forgive and forget. Don't be a garbage collector. Have you heard the phrase, "I can forgive but I can't forget"? When a person refuses to forgive, he is locking doors that someday he might need to open. When we hold grudges and harbor resentment, who are we hurting the most? Ourselves. Jim and Jerry were childhood friends, but for whatever reasons, the relationship fell apart and they hadn't spoken for 25 years. Jerry was on his deathbed and didn't want to enter eternity with a heavy heart. So he called Jim, apologized and said, "Let's forgive each other and be done for the past." Jim thought it was a good idea and decided to visit Jerry at the hospital. They caught up on 25 years, patched up their differences and spent a couple of hours together. As Jim was leaving, Jerry shouted from behind, "Jim, just in case I don't die, remember, this forgiveness doesn't count. Life is too short to hold grudges. It is not worth it. Shame on me. While it is not worth holding grudges, it doesn't make sense to be bitten time and again. It is well said, you cheat me once, shame on you. You cheat me twice, shame on me." John Kennedy once said, "Forgive the other person but don't forget their name." I am sure that his message was that one should not get cheated twice. Step 19. Practice honesty, integrity, and sincerity. Sometimes the brightness of truth does not enlighten but blinds the evil. Page 121 of 175. Honesty means to be genuine and real versus fake and fictitious. Be labeled or build a reputation of being trustworthy. If there is one thing that builds any kind of relationship at home, at work, or socially, it is integrity. Not keeping commitments amounts to dishonest behavior. Honesty inspires openness, reliability, and frankness. It shows respect for oneself and others. Honesty is in being, not in appearing to be. Lies may have speed but truth has endurance. Integrity is not found in company brochures or titles but in a person's character. Is it worth compromising one's integrity and taking shortcuts to win? A person may win a trophy but knowing the truth, can never be a happy person. More important than winning a trophy is being a good human being. A pound of butter. There was a farmer who sold a pound of butter to the baker. One day the baker decided to weigh the butter to see if he was getting a pound and he found that he was not. This angered him and he took the farmer to court. The judge asked the farmer if he was using any measure. The farmer replied, "Your Honor, I am primitive. I don't have a proper measure, but I do have a scale." The judge asked, "Then how do you weigh the butter?" The farmer replied, "Your Honor, long before the baker started buying butter from me, I have been buying a pound loaf of bread from him. Every day when the baker brings the bread, I put it on the scale and give him the same weight in butter. If anyone is to be blamed, it is the baker." What is the moral of the story? We get back in life what we give to others. Whenever you take an action, ask yourself this question: am I giving fair value for the wages or money I hope to make? Honesty and dishonesty become a habit. Some people practice dishonesty and can lie with a straight face. Others lie so much that they don't even know what the truth is anymore. But who are they deceiving? Themselves, more than anyone else. Honesty can be put across gently. Some people take pride in being brutally honest. It seems they are getting a bigger kick out of the brutality than the honesty. Choice of words and tact are important. Truth may not always be what you want to hear. One can be truthful without being cruel, but that may not always be the case. The most important responsibility of an honest friend is to be truthful. Some people, in order to avoid confronting painful truths, select friends who tell them what they want to hear. They kid themselves despite the fact that deep down they know they are not being truthful. Honest criticism can be painful. If you have many acquaintances and few friends, it is time to step back and explore the depth of your relationships. A lack of honesty is sometimes labeled as tact, public relations, or politics. But is it really so? The problem with lying is that one has to remember one's lies. Honesty requires firmness and commitment. How many times have we all been guilty of little white lies? Flattery. Page 122 of 175. Omitting facts or giving half-truths. Telling the greatest lies by remaining silent? Make yourself an honest man and then you may be sure there is one rascal less in the world. Thomas Carlyle. Credibility. We all know the story of the shepherd boy who cried wolf. The boy decided to have some fun at the expense of the villagers. He shouted, "Help, help, the wolf is here." The villagers heard him and came to his rescue. But when they got there, they saw no wolf and the boy laughed at them. They went away. The next day, The boy played the same trick and the same thing happened. Then one day, while the boy was taking care of his sheep, he actually saw a wolf and shouted for help. The people in the village heard him, but this time nobody came to his rescue. They thought it was another trick and didn't trust him anymore. He lost his sheep to the wolf. What is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is when people tell lies, they lose credibility. Once they have lost credibility, even when they tell the truth, no one believes them. The quality of a good character as honesty. Truth can be misrepresented in two ways. 1. Incomplete facts or information. 2. Exaggeration. Beware of half-truths or misrepresentation of truths. There was a sailor who worked on the same boat for 3 years. One night he got drunk. This was the first time it ever happened. The captain recorded it in the log. The sailor was drunk tonight. The sailor read it, and he knew this comment would affect his career. So he went to the captain, apologized and asked the captain to add that it only happened once in 3 years, which was the complete truth. The captain refused and said, "What I have written in the log is the truth." The next day it was the sailor's turn to fill in the log. He wrote, "The captain was sober tonight." The captain read the comment and asked the sailor to change or add to it, explaining the complete truth because this implied that the captain was drunk every other night. The sailor told the captain that what he had written in the log was the truth. Both statements were true, but they conveyed misleading messages. Exaggeration. Page 123 of 175. Exaggeration does two things. 1. It weakens a person's case and makes him lose credibility. 2. It is like an addiction. It becomes a habit. Some people can't tell the truth without exaggerating. Be sincere. Sincerity is a matter of intent and hard to prove. We can achieve our goals by having a sincere desire to help others. Stay away from pretense. Asking a friend in trouble, "Is there anything I can do for you?" is really annoying. It is more of an eyewash and pretense. If you really want to help, think of something appropriate to be done and then do it. Many people put on the cloak of sincerity more out of selfishness than substance, hoping that someday they could claim the right to receive help. Stay away from meaningless and phony pleasantries. Caution. Sincerity is no measure of good judgment. Someone could be sincere, yet wrong. Actions speak louder than words. Which loved best? "I love you, mother," said little John. Then, forgetting his work, his cap went on, and he was off to the garden swing, and left her the water and wood to bring. "I love you, mother," said Rosie Nell. "I love you better than tongue can tell." Then she teased and pouted full half the day, till her mother rejoiced when she went to play. "I love you, mother," said little Fan. "Today I'll help you all I can. How glad I am that school doesn't keep." So she rocked the babe till it fell asleep. Then, stepping softly, she fetched the broom, and swept the floor and tidied the room. Busy and happy all day was she, helpful and happy as child could be. "I love you, mother," again they said. 3 little children going to bed. Page 124 of 175. How do you think that mother guessed which of them really loved her best? Joy Allison. Maintain integrity. Ancient wisdom says, anything that is bought or sold has no value unless it contains the secret, priceless ingredient that, what cannot be traded. What is it? The secret, priceless ingredient of every product is the credibility, the honor and integrity of the one who makes it. It is not so secret, but it is priceless. Here is another side to integrity. Questionable. 3 executives were fighting over who would pay the bill for lunch. One said, "I will pay, I can get a tax deduction." The other said, "Let me have it, I will get reimbursement from my company." The third said, "Let me pay, because I am filing for bankruptcy next week." Step 20. Practice humility. Confidence without humility is arrogance. Humility is the foundation of all virtues. It is a sign of greatness. Sincere humility attracts, but false humility detracts. In the Book of Virtues. Edited by William J. Bennett, Simon & Schuster, New York, 1993, p. 204. Page 125 of 175. Many years ago, a writer came across some soldiers who were trying to move a heavy log without success. The corporal was standing by as the men struggled. The rider asked the corporal why he wasn't helping. The corporal replied, "I am the corporal. I give orders." The rider dismounted, went up and stood by the soldiers, and as they were lifting the log, he helped them. With his help, the log got moved. The rider quietly mounted his horse and went to the corporal and said, "The next time your men need help, send for the commander-in-chief." After he left, the corporal and his men found out that the rider was George Washington. The message is pretty clear. Success and humility go hand in hand. When others blow your horn, the sound goes further. Just think about it. Simplicity and humility are two hallmarks of greatness. Humility does not mean self-demeaning behavior. That would amount to belittling oneself. Step 21. Be understanding and caring in relationships. We all make mistakes, and sometimes we are insensitive to the needs of others, especially those very close to us. All this leads to disappointment and resentment. The answer to handling disappointment is understanding. Relationships don't come about because people are perfect. They come about because of understanding. There is more gratification in being a caring person than in just being a nice person. A caring attitude builds goodwill, which is the best kind of insurance that a person can have, and it doesn't cost a thing. Some people substitute money for caring and understanding. Being understanding is far more important than money, and the best way to be understood is to be understanding. And the basis of real communication is also to be understanding. Practice generosity. It is a sign of emotional maturity. Being generous is being thoughtful and considerate without being asked. Generous people experience the richness of life which a selfish person cannot even dream of. Be considerate. Selfishness brings its own revenge. Be sensitive to other people's feelings. Be tactful. Tact is very important in any relationship. Tact is the ability to make a point without alienating the other person. Kindness. Money will buy a great dog, but only kindness will make him wag his tail. It is never too soon for kindness, because we don't know how soon is too late. Kindness is a language the deaf can hear and the blind can see. It is better to treat a friend with kindness while he is living than display flowers on his grave when he is dead. An act of kindness makes a person feel good regardless of whether he is doing it or it is done to him. Kind words never hurt the tongue. Page 126 of 175. Step 22. Practice courtesy on a daily basis. Courtesy is nothing more than consideration for others. It opens doors that would not otherwise open. A courteous person who is not very sharp will go further in life than a discourteous but sharp person. It is the little things that make a big difference. Have you ever been bitten by an elephant? The most obvious answer is no. Have you ever been bitten by a mosquito? Most of us have. It is the little irritants that test patience. Courtesy is made of nothing more than many petty sacrifices. Small courtesies will take a person much further than cleverness. Courtesy is an offshoot of deep moral behavior. It costs nothing but pays well. No one is too big or too busy to practice courtesy. Courtesy means giving your seat to the elderly or to the disabled. Courtesy can be a warm smile, a thank you. It is a small investment, but the payoffs are big. It enhances the other person's self-worth. Courtesy requires humility. It is unfortunate when people become obnoxious, because they detract from their positive traits. I have overheard people saying with pride, "I can be pretty obnoxious." Scatter the seeds of courtesy wherever you can. Some are bound to take root and elevate you in the eyes of others. Manners. Courtesy and manners go hand in hand. It is equally important, if not more, to practice manners at home and not just on outsiders. Showing consideration and good manners brings out a feeling of warmth and acceptance in the home. Courtesy means practicing good manners. Besides being self-satisfying, politeness and courtesy have many more advantages than rude behavior. Considering that, I wonder why more people don't practice courtesy. Rude and discourteous people may get short-term results. Most people like to avoid dealing with such behavior, and in the long run, rude people are disliked. Courteous behavior ought to be taught to children at an early age so that they can grow and become mature, considerate adults. Courteous behavior, once learned, stays for life. It demonstrates a caring attitude and a sensitivity to other people's feelings. It seems trivial and unimportant, but little phrases such as, please, thank you, and, I'm sorry, take a person a long way. Remember, being courteous will breed courtesy in return. Practice as much and as often as you can. Initially, it may take some effort, but the effort is well worth it. Politeness is the hallmark of gentleness. Courtesy is another name for politeness. It costs a little but pays a lot, not only to the individual but to the entire organization. Have you noticed that sometimes when one person is telling a joke, another person will jump in and give the punchline, drawing attention to himself? And after everyone laughs, he will reveal where he read it. This may show superior knowledge, but it shows inferior manners. Courtesy shows good upbringing. Page 127 of 175. Many brilliant and talented people have destroyed their own success because they lack courtesy and manners. Politeness and courtesy are signs of being cultured. Rudeness and discourtesy show the lack of it. Treat other people with respect and dignity. Rudeness is the weak man's imitation of strength. Eric Hoffer. Step 23. Develop a sense of humor. Have a sense of humor and you will possess the ability to laugh at yourself. A sense of humor makes a person likable and attractive. Some people are humor impaired. Learn to laugh at yourself because it is the safest humor. Laughing at yourself gives you the energy to bounce back. Laughter is a natural tranquilizer for people all over the world. Humor may not change the message, but it certainly can help to take the sting out of the bite. The healing power of humor. Dr. Norman Cousins, author of Anatomy of an Illness, is a prime example of how a person can cure himself of a terminal illness. He had a 1 in 500 chance of recovery, but Cousin wanted to prove that if there was anything like mind over matter, he'd make it a reality. He figured if negative emotions caused negative chemicals in our body, then the reverse must be true too. Positive emotions, like happiness and laughter, would bring positive chemicals into our system. He moved from the hospital to a hotel and rented humorous movies and literally cured himself by laughing. Of course, medical help is important, but the will to live for the patient is equally, if not more, important. A funny bone could be a lifesaver. Besides, it makes life's adversities easier to handle. Step 24. Don't be sarcastic and put others down. Negative people's humor may include sarcasm, put-downs and hurtful remarks. Any humor involving sarcasm that makes fun of others is in poor taste. An injury is forgiven more easily than an insult. When someone blushes with embarrassment, when someone carries away an ache, when something sacred is made to appear common, when someone's weakness provides the laughter, when profanity is required to make it funny, when a child is brought to tears, or when everyone can't join in the laughter, it's a poor joke. Cliff Thomas. To a sadist, everything is funny, so long as it is happening to someone else. It is not an uncommon sight to see boys throwing stones at frogs just to have fun. The boys' fun means death to the frogs. It is not fun for the frogs. Humor can be valuable or dangerous, depending on whether you are laughing with someone or at someone. When humor involves making fun of or ridiculing others, it is not in good taste, nor is it innocent. Hurting others' feelings can be cruel. Some people get. Page 128 of 175. Their fun by putting others down. Sarcasm alienates people. It is a good idea to keep humor low risk. Step 25. To have a friend. Be a friend. We keep looking for the right employer, the right employee, spouse, parent, child, and so on. We forget that we have to be the right person too. Experience has shown that there is no perfect person, no perfect job, no perfect spouse. When we look for perfection, we are disappointed because all we find is that we traded one set of problems for another set of problems. Having lived in the West for over 20 years, I have observed that with the high divorce rate the way it is, people find after they get married for the second time that their new spouse doesn't have the problems of the first one but has a totally new set of problems. Similarly, people change jobs or fire employees looking for the right one only to find that they traded one set of problems for another. Let's try and work around these challenges and make divorcing or firing the last rather than the first resort. Sacrifice. Friendship takes sacrifice. Building friendships and relationships takes sacrifice, loyalty, and maturity. Sacrifice takes going out of one's way and never happens by the way. Selfishness destroys friendships. Casual acquaintances come easy, but true friendships take time to build and effort to keep. Friendships are put to tests, and when they endure, they grow stronger. We must learn to recognize counterfeit relationships. True friends do not want to see their friends hurt. True friendship gives more than it gets and stands by adversity. Fair weather friend. A fair weather friend is like a banker who lends you his umbrella when the sun is shining and takes it back the minute it rains. Two men were traveling through the forest and came across a bear. One of them quickly climbed a tree, but the other was unable to, so he lay on the ground and played dead. The bear sniffed around his ear and left. The fellow from the tree came down and asked him, "What did the bear tell you?" The man replied, he said, "Don't trust a friend who deserts you in danger." The message is as dear as daylight. Mutual trust and confidence are the foundation stone of all friendship. People make friends for different motives. Friendships can be categorized as follows. 1. Friendship of pleasure. You are a friend so long as the relationship is entertaining and fun, i.e., a fair weather friend. 2. Friendship of convenience. This is where people make friendships to gain favors. These friendships last until the usefulness of the other person ends. These friendships are not permanent. 3. True friendship. This is based on mutual respect and admiration. True friends are people who have the good of each other at heart and act accordingly. Good deeds come back to us in the form of good friends. There is lasting goodness on both sides. It is based on character and commitment. Page 129 of 175. Prosperity brings friends, adversity reveals them. Fair weather friendship is described well by the following poem. Rejoice, and men will seek you. Grieve, and they turn and go. They want full measure of all your pleasure, but they do not need your woe. Be glad, and your friends are many. Be sad, and you lose them all. There are none to decline your nectar-ed wine, but alone you must drink life's gall. Ella Wheeler Wilcox. People who are true friends in the real sense help one another, but these are not favors. They are acts incidental to friendship, and if they don't help they would be failing in their relationships. Relationships don't just happen, they take time to build. They are built on kindness, understanding, and self-sacrifice, not on jealousy, selfishness, puffed-up egos, and rude behavior. Relationships should never be taken for granted. Once relationships are established, they need to be nurtured constantly. Nobody is perfect. Expecting perfection is setting yourself up for disappointment. Friendly cooperation. It is difficult to achieve success without the friendly cooperation of others. A pleasing personality is flexible and adaptable while maintaining composure. Flexibility does not mean flimsy or helpless behavior. It means assessing and responding appropriately and in a timely manner to a given situation. Flexibility does not stretch to principles and values. Step 26. Show empathy. The wrong we do to others and what we suffer are weighed differently. Empathy alone is a very important characteristic of a positive personality. People with empathy ask themselves this question: how would I feel if someone treated me that way? A puppy. A boy went to the pet store to buy a puppy. 4 of them were sitting together, priced at $50 each. Then there was one sitting alone in a corner. The boy asked if that was from the same litter, if it was for sale, and why it was sitting alone. The store owner replied that it was from the same litter. It was a deformed one, and not for sale. The boy asked what the deformity was. The store owner replied that the puppy was born without a hip socket and had a leg missing. The boy asked, "What will you do with this one?" The reply was it would be put to sleep. The boy asked if he could play with that puppy. The store owner said, "Sure." The boy picked the puppy up and the puppy licked him on the ear. Instantly the boy decided that was the puppy he wanted to buy. The store owner said, "That is not for sale." The boy insisted. Page 130 of 175. The store owner agreed. The boy pulled out $2 from his pocket and ran to get $48 from his mother. As he reached the door, the store owner shouted after him, I don't understand why you would pay full money for this one when you could buy a good one for the same price." The boy didn't say a word. He just lifted his left trouser leg and he was wearing a brace. The pet store owner said, "I understand. Go ahead. Take this one. This is empathy. Be sympathetic. When you share sorrow, it divides. When you share happiness, it multiplies." Asterisk in the Book of Virtues. Edited by William J. Bennett, Simon & Schuster, New York, 1993, p. 553. Page 131 of